Okay, so in this video I'm just going to quickly talk about sleep and how that can affect your progress. So sleep is one of those things that most of us, including myself, quite often underrate in terms of making progress, and it's actually one of the things that we probably ought to prioritise and have at the top of that list in order to help us stay, I don't want to say on plan, but kind of keep doing the things that we need to do. But it's also one of those things that when life gets busy, a lot of us will compromise on. It's the easiest thing to compromise on. It's the easiest thing to kind of get a few hours from if we have a very busy day or we have a very busy job. If we're up late, getting up early, it's really easy to kind of allow that to shorten down. And so the recommended hours of sleep is around 7 to 9 hours. Most people actually, or quite a lot of people, tend to get maybe 6 to 7 hours, especially if they've got young families or busy jobs, or busy families, and you know, especially now the world's opening back up. So the recommended time is 7 to 9 hours. Now, anything less than that can have an impact on things, and actually if you get more than that, it can have an impact on things as well. So when you may have had a really long sleep and then you get up and you actually feel a little bit groggy and find it harder to get going, then sometimes it can sway the other way as well. But sleep's really important, especially if you're training and you're busy in the gym and you're doing weight training as well, and you're leading an active life. Then sleep is when our body recovers. So when we're in the gym, we stress our body doing exercise. So when we do resistance training particularly, we tear the muscle fibres, that's what we actually do. And then when we sleep, they grow back bigger and stronger. And it's when our body recovers, it when it kind of repairs itself. So if we're not getting as much sleep, we can be more prone to injuries. You know, if we're not getting as much sleep, then we have less chance of building the desired muscle that we want, and it means that we just won't recover quite as well, which can then have an impact on future performance and the other things that we do, and maybe our workouts in that week. So especially if you have a really late night one week or late nights at the weekend, that then can have an impact on the subsequent workouts that you have the following week. So when we sleep, our body recovers. Ideally we want to get around 7 to 9 hours every night, and it also affects things like our brain function and our cognitive function. So not only does that affect the tasks that we do, it can affect our speech, it can affect the things that we do. We will move quicker if we have had adequate sleep, which then can affect things like NEAT, so non-exercise activity thermogenesis, so the amount of movement that we do, which aids with weight loss particularly because we're moving and we're burning calories, even when we don't realise it. So again, me moving my hands, my facial expressions, they all add up. But also when it affects brain function, then it affects our cognitive function, which affects our ability to make decisions, which then means that maybe our decisions around food might not be what we would ideally want to choose. We might make rash decisions. We might reach for those things that if we'd had a bit more sleep, we might have a little bit more willpower, to use a phrase, to be able to resist them. And not only that, obviously if we've had less sleep, we won't perform as well in the gym, which means we won't necessarily do as well or feel as good in our workouts, which will slow down progress. But also it can affect our hunger levels. And so there's actually some hormones that are associated with hunger, and the less sleep that we get, we have more of one called ghrelin, or that will increase due to lack of sleep, which then signals to us that we are hungry. So it might then lead you to overeat. So if you've ever had one of those days where you're really tired and then all of a sudden your appetite is big, and so essentially your body is sending signals, or your brain is sending signals to your body that it needs energy because we're struggling, because we're tired and we haven't had enough rest, therefore we need to keep going, and therefore hunger increases, and then we're more susceptible to reach for the high sugar, high fatty, high carbohydrate, highly processed foods that taste really nice and satisfy our taste buds and give us that quick energy boost that we're after, but can also be quite calorific and much easier to consume. So yeah, just pay attention to sleep. Ideally aim for at least 7 hours. And what I would suggest as well is pay attention to the nights. If you do struggle, if you do have some nights where you don't get as much sleep, then pay attention to these other things. Pay attention to how you feel, pay attention to your workouts, pay attention to your brain function and your decision making, and pay attention to your hunger levels and activity. You know, are you moving as much, or are you sort of sat quite still? Hope that helps.